Shabbat shalom to everyone. Nice to see everyone. I can't figure out why everyone's on this side. Are people staying away from you, Dee? I mean, what is happening here? There is a shift to the right here that I'm not sure about. Okay. Take a deep breath. I'm very sad. The indictment of former President Trump saddens me. It is a troubling time for our country. The idea that a former president would be accused of violating the Espionage Act is quite disturbing. We elect presidents to uphold the laws of the nation. If he is guilty, we have lost something. It is also troubling that many have no faith in the judicial process, and when we don't, our constitutional democracy is weakened. Now, Mr. Trump has a right to a fair trial, with all the constitutional protections that all of us deserve. I read the indictment very thoroughly. You should read it. It's like 45, 50 pages. It's worth reading. It's not complicated. You have to make your own judgment about it. Don't listen to anyone people are saying. We're smart enough to read it ourselves. I watch MSNBC, I confess. It's a liberal station. And they've already convicted him, and that's not their job. And if you watch the Fox News, many of their people say his indictment is a conspiracy against him. Everything is controlled by the deep state, and I don't even know what the deep state is. Therefore, Mr. Trump is a victim of prosecutorial corruption. His supporters attack the indictment, and as I have read, the overwhelming majority of them don't even want to read the indictment, and that seems crazy as well. Let justice be done without prejudice. We are a nation of law. Certainly, Jewish civilization is about law. The right of the accused is very well defined in the Talmud, as are the function of the courts, as are the qualifications of the judges. Now, I see the Parsha, our reading for this Shabbat, through the lens of our current American political crisis. And give me a moment. Here is what I mean. We read this week the story of Korach, along with Datan and Aviram, who raise an important challenge to Moses and Aaron. They accuse them of having authority that they should not be uniquely given to them. And the Parsha opens with Korach and his followers approaching Moses to claim their own mantle of authority, arguing that Moses and Aaron should not be above the rest of the nation because all the community, everyone is holy. Moses and Aaron, and then God, do not take well to this challenge. The story ends in dramatic fashion, with the earth opening its mouth and swallowing Korach and his followers whole. So in this version of the challenge, those who question God's appointed leaders are not only to be ignored, they are to be punished with great violence and fury. In fact, in Pirkei Avot, the dispute of Korach and his congregation is held up as a paradigm of machloket shelo l'shem shemayim, a dispute that isn't for the sake of heaven. In other words, from the rabbinic point of view, Korach's claim is not made in good faith, and therefore he must be understood as a threat that he is. There's no value to Korach's challenge, nor in Korach himself. Instead, he must be destroyed in order that he does not destroy Moses' authority. And those people who remain disloyal die from a plague. But is this the only way of understanding the story? Is there any way to see Korach differently? Let us argue the other way. Korach might have not had completely pure motives, but I don't know anyone who has completely pure motives. Moses and Aaron are cousins, and this is perhaps a form of interfamily jealousy. But is it evil for Korach to challenge Moses and Aaron? Isn't it true that holiness is something available to all the Israelites? Moses and Aaron, yes, they have a special role in the hierarchy of Israel and of Hebrew spirituality. But aren't there limits on their elevation? Shouldn't power and holiness be shared? There's something not right here. I think Korach has a point. Are we not a tradition that is all about critique? Aren't we all called upon as Jews to question? Wouldn't it have been better for Aaron and Moses, not in panic, not to go to God out of fear and trembling, and instead of demanding God's retribution against Korach and his minions, engage Korach? Why not a more Talmudic approach to involve Korach and his followers in a serious dialogue with Moses and Aaron? There is even a hint of that in our tradition. You find in a midrash called Midbar Rabbah, there is a depiction that Korach is a Talmid Chacham, a Talmudic genius. And Moses has an interesting back and forth with Korach about the principles of law, such as how do you fulfill the mitzvah, the commandment of wearing a talit and the mezuzah. It's really interesting, not that long, and if someone's really interested, I can get it to you in English. Let Korach make his case. Let Moses make his case. Let it be a discussion of ideas, not of power and ego. Overwhelmingly, the rabbis do not see it that way, but I cannot see it any other way. The goal of studying the weekly portion is to live the weekly portion, to see the world through the narrative of the Torah. And I had on Wednesday a Korach Moses experience that led to a fantasy and then to sadness. There is not far from here a restaurant. It's called Baba's Pantry. Have you heard of it? Have you been there? Okay. It was named one of the 10 best new restaurants in America. It's a Palestinian restaurant. Baba immigrated to this country as a Palestinian refugee in the late 1970s. He worked hard. He created a charming little place. Go there. The food is good. I'll tell you what I had. I had like a salad and a few falafel on it. That was all I wanted. That's really all I could eat there, but that's besides the point. So when you go in there, you notice that there is definitely a political agenda. Nothing about Israel, but a strong affirmation of Palestinian life politically and culturally. It's fine. But I have to tell you something. When I walked in there, I didn't want to announce that I was Jewish. And then I have this fantasy. Let us have a Middle Eastern Shabbat with food from them. And here is when I'm about to jump off the cliff. Have Baba or his son is a very charming young man, share with the congregation what he feels, what he believes. And we would sit quietly and respectfully and listen, and then I would ask questions, not to criticize, but to understand. I really want this to happen, yet I don't think that it will ever happen. I certainly have the right to invite him to do so, but I don't think it would be a good idea, because we've all taken sides. Just like Korach and Moses, no healthy dialogue can happen. Now, I'm a passionate Zionist. I want a two-state solution. I belong to J Street. Don't turn me into the AIPAC people. I belong to J Street. I'm yelling to the cameras there, so everyone knows now. There's a need for justice for the Palestinians. But it can't come at the expense of the security of Israel. That's a non-starter for me. I know that most Palestinians don't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution where the Jews have been disempowered, to say the least. This is not tolerable to me. We can only have a holy discussion if there is true openness, and we can have a holy discussion, and that's the reality here. This is the reality, and it's the tragedy of it. Yes, we can read Korach as a demagogue who just wants to divide. But this biblical event can also be a warning to us that people who are diametrically on opposite sides must find a way to talk, to make the case to each other, to explore with each other. If free discussion of powerfully complex issues cannot be discussed, there's very little hope for peace, justice, and democracy. Perhaps this story can lead us forward to rethink what dialogue means, what free discussion means, what engaging our opponent means. And I believe that this portion raises issues and challenges that we can't avoid. And let's end with a reflection. In what way can we be a venue for difficult conversations in our congregation? I know most people claim that we are very open-minded. I don't believe so. And those people who pretend to be open-minded, when push comes to shove, they don't want to hear anything that really pains them. And if you stand before me and you can't share with me what really troubles you and pains you, and that will even make me angry, we don't have really any discussion here about anything. In what way can we be a venue for difficult discussions? How much do we as a synagogue want to be a forum for unfiltered discussion? That's a question that is hard to ask. And in some way, I'm afraid of the answer.